Welcome to Evaluating Sources from the Northeast State Community College Wayne G. Baszler Library. Today we are going to learn about why it is important to evaluate sources, and we are going to look at one method you can use to do so. Evaluating sources is important for several reasons. The quality of your work is reflected in the quality of your sources. Poor sources can make an otherwise good paper or project subpar. Likewise, good sources can elevate your work. Inaccurate sources lead to faulty conclusions and bad decisions. Quality sources help us draw accurate conclusions and make good decisions. Evaluation helps weed out biased and misleading sources that detract from good, solid information gleaned from reputable sources. In this video, we are going to learn about the CRAP method of source evaluation. If you don't like that word, you could also remember it as the CARP method by rearranging the letters. The letters stand for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Our C stands for currency. This is not the money currency, but the time currency. When evaluating sources, you need to look at when they were published or produced. The timeliness of information can be very important to the quality. Consider your doctor. Do you want them treating you based on information they learned in the 1980s when they were in medical school, or information published in the last few years? Or think about technology. How much have phones changed over the years? How quickly do they change nowadays? Some topics require the most current information you can find. Others may have some leeway in how current your information needs to be. History doesn't change. What happened, happened. Our interpretations might change, and we may make new discoveries, but the basics of history stay the same. As a result, older sources are still okay for most historical topics. Of course, new sources are still good too. Topics in health and medicine, technology, and the sciences generally need the newest sources. Other topics may have a moving target for date, and you need to use your best judgment for what is an appropriate source based on the publication or production date. In addition, always pay attention to your teacher's requirements. If they say your sources must be from within the past 5 years, make sure they are from the past 5 years, no matter what the general guidelines for your topic might be. R stands for relevance. In the obvious sense, this is looking at whether or not your source is actually about your topic. You don't want to compare apples to oranges. You also don't want to take information out of context. Another aspect of relevance that isn't as obvious deals with the intended audience. Is the intended audience of the source appropriate for your use? This is especially important when looking at internet sources. There are many good sites out there that are intended for students in elementary, middle, and high school. You are in college now, so these sites are no longer relevant to you. You need sources of information whose audience is college students, scholars, or professionals. Our first A stands for authority. When considering the authority of a source, we are looking at whether the author has the appropriate credentials to be writing about the topic. You can also ask if the author is an expert in their field. What makes someone an expert? What types of credentials are appropriate for granting authority? The answer to these questions is not clear-cut. Authority can come from many places. The most obvious, and the one you will use most for college work, is academic credentials. Expertise derived from the academic work done to receive an advanced degree such as a master's or a PhD. Another common source of expertise is work experience. Working long enough in a profession grants authority in the subject matter one would encounter in that career. Sometimes membership in an organization can help establish a person's authority. Some organizations grant membership or specific credentials to those who prove their worthiness in the subject matter embraced by the organization. Authority is often easier to determine for materials that come from the library. It may be difficult to determine authority for internet sources, especially when you can't find an author or can find nothing about the author. Sometimes you can use the organization that sponsors a website to grant authority to its content, if you can't do so for an individual author. However, you may be left with having to research the author, which takes up some of the time budgeted for doing your research. The second A is for accuracy. Accuracy has two facets. First, are the facts of the source accurate? Most facts you can find in more than one place. Do a quick check to make sure that the information is accurate. The second aspect of accuracy is grammar, spelling, and punctuation. If someone is publishing information for the world to see but can't get the grammar, spelling, and punctuation correct, it draws into question the overall quality of the source. You can give a little leeway to those who are not native speakers of English, but others need to do a good job to pass the evaluation. Our final letter, P, is for purpose. For purpose, we are looking at why the information was written or published. The general purpose of most sources you will get through the library is to inform. That is the main purpose you want most of your information to have. There are purposes for information other than to inform, however, and you need to watch for them. Sometimes it is obvious what the purpose of information is, but other times there is a hidden agenda behind it for which you have to investigate. A popular purpose for information on the internet is to persuade. Authors and publishers of information want you to believe a certain point of view, take an action, or buy something. You can also find this in some books and in opinion pieces in magazines and newspapers. Bias is often present in persuasive pieces, whether hidden or evident. Using biased information can lead to skewed or even incorrect conclusions. If you must use biased sources, look for sources on both sides of the issue to try to bring balance. Another purpose you might encounter, especially in internet sources, is to misinform. These sources are deliberately misleading and should be avoided unless being used as an example of misinformation. For what other reasons might someone publish information? This has been a brief overview of the CRAP method of evaluating sources. Using it will help you gather better sources for your research, whether it be for a paper or project for school, a report at work, or looking to buy a new car. We all need to take time to evaluate the information we use to make sure it is of high enough quality and not misleading. If you have questions about evaluating sources or need help determining if a source is good or not, you can always talk to one of your friendly librarians. We are here to help you.